Let's first of all start with saying that perfect fitment doesn't really exist because it's very subjective between how someone wants their car to look. My definition of perfect fitment is the flush fitment, where the tire and wheel are flush to the fender. Some people prefer poke, some people prefer flush, and some people prefer tucked in. And personally for me, I do like the flush look, and this is what this fitment guide will be about. That being said, I also wanted to mention that a lot of this information came from online. There's a few websites here that I did a lot of research on. So Wheel It Fit, which is a paid website, and you get access to all of the website's features, but you can customize which car you can utilize and exactly how it fits on that car, which is a great investment. I think it's only like $5 for a one time, and you have full access to their features. So the car, the generation, the undulations of how the wheels will be moving through compression. You can put offset, wheel size, everything. It's super nice, but you do have to pay. The second website, Will They Fit, which is a free website. You can't customize the cars that you put the wheels on, but you can at least get a gauge of how much bigger or smaller or whatever aftermarket wheels you will be putting on. And lastly, I used a lot of forums like Reddit, Facebook, Build Threads to get a good sample size of what people are actually running and what doesn't work. And lastly, third thing I wanted to mention, first generation FRS BRZs is not the same fitment as the second generation. They do not fit the same. A lot of people make that mistake of going online FRS BRZ, like what's the perfect fitment for the FRS BRZ, and they don't change the year. The generation makes a huge difference. Putting that aside, this fitment guide is for the second generation. I'm going to put it into 3 categories: wheels that will be flush with stock suspension, entire setups that are flush with coilovers, because a lot of people only run coilovers and don't want to throw any more money into suspension and only do coilovers. And I think 90% of you will be doing that. And then lastly, there is a full suspension setup where you're running control arms and a lot more adjustability. That being said, let's get started. So on stock suspension, the best fitment you can get is 8.5-inch wheels, and you're going to want to stay between plus 35 and plus 45. You want to keep your tires at either 225/40 or 235/40. The stock tires, wheel and tire setup is completely tucked in, and you don't want that. So with the 8.5, you gain about an inch, but also with a wider tire, you're going to gain even more. But not so much that you will be poking out and hitting the tire on your fenders. So for stock suspension, this is generally the golden area where you want to stay. You don't want to go 9 inches on stock suspension. You're going to look like a monster truck. And a lot of people make that mistake. They buy wheels and tires first before their suspension. If you're going to go mod your car, do suspension first. Your car would look better dropped on stock wheels than aftermarket wheels, and you're driving like a monster truck. Moving on to coilover setups, and only coilovers, no other suspension bits. I do want to mention that a lot of coilovers don't have camber adjustment, so just keep that in mind. You're going to want ones with top hats, and if you don't, at least get eccentric bolts, because these eccentric bolts will help camber for the front wheels. But you're gonna need a bit of camber to run any kind of setup on coilovers, mostly because you're gonna be dropping the car, and if you're gonna be dropping the car, you're gonna want it to tuck in a little bit, just so during the undulations of the roads, it goes inside the fender instead of out and hitting the fender. So you're gonna want a bit of camber, and that can be done with top hats or camber bolts. Now for coilover setups, the golden ratio for coilover setups is 8.5 inches plus 35 or 9 inches plus 45. 235/40 tires or 245/35 tires. This will give you the best flush fitment, and it's going to give you just enough poke so that you are right flush with the fender, and it's going to look amazing. And I think 90% of the forums do run this setup. Anyone running 9.5 is going to have issues with poking too much and hitting the fender. 8.5 plus 35, 9.5 plus 45. While I'm here, I wanted to mention none of these fitments include Brembo fitment. Just because there's not a lot of information online with Brembos. Brembos add a huge dimension into fitment, just because width and offset are only 50% of the equation. You also have to equate the spokes of the wheels, whether they curve around, whether they're far enough. It's a whole thing. So unfortunately, none of these calculations include any cars with Brembos. So I apologize. Maybe in the future I can do a little bit more research into what kind of fitments specifically for cars with Brembos. But for this one, just stock brakes. And then lastly, if you have a full suspension setup, this is coilovers with top hats and camber adjustments, eccentric bolts, lower control arms, and upper control arms. You kind of get to be able to go wild with your fitment. If you want to stay conservative, this is the sizes and fitment that I did some research on that will actually fit. With full suspension setup, the best fitment is going to be 9.5 wheels. Let's just get out of the way. 9.5 is the golden wheel width in this section. You're going to run with 245/35 or 255/35. This is the most you can run if you want a conservative setup. There are instances of 265/35, but you will have to do some cutting even with upper control arms. So just keep that in mind. Being said, these are all for flush fitment for 18 inches. As for 17 inches, that's a whole different ball game. The best 17-inch flush fitment would be 245/40 17s with 8.5 to 9 inch width tires. You can fit 9.5 with a bit of tab trimming and upper control arms, but it can be done. Now these are all flush fitments without cutting or trimming the fender yet. I personally have a fitment that does require trimming just because I don't like the look of low profile tires as much. So what I'm personally running, I'm running 245/40 18s with an 8.5 plus 35. On paper, it didn't look too bad, so I thought I'd try it out, but the 245/40 ratio is so tall that no matter what I do, it would still rub. Now, I am looking to try to fix that because nobody in this platform has run this before. I've looked online, I've looked on forums. Nobody runs this setup. Just don't like the 245/35 look. It's too low profile for me. And then as for 255/35, that I'm gonna run into issues anyways. So I thought 245/40 would work, but unfortunately it doesn't. But that is all the information I have through combing through the websites and forums. But a lot of people claim that they have the perfect fitment and they're rubbing and they have to trim their fender tab. And then a lot of people see those videos and or pictures and think, oh, it's gonna work, and it doesn't. So this is from my own research, dozens of hours and trying to see what the perfect fitment is, and this is what I came up with. At all levels, stock suspension, coilovers, and full suspension setup, these are the best case scenarios and would look the best and are pretty conservative where you're not having to be so aggressive with your fitment. But if you have any questions, let me know. Send me a message, comment. You can also DM me on Instagram. That's BRZ. And yeah, hopefully that helps you with your fitment, because I know I had a frustrating time trying to look up stuff online and I just couldn't find anything. I just couldn't find a lot of guides really to this generation for some reason. This is one of the most modified cars and there's no like fitment Bible, you know? But anyways, all right, peace.